Oh, let's do it live on a Monday edition of the program. Merely Bo, the Great Z. How you living, buddy?
I'm great, man. How are you doing?
You know, quite a swap weather-wise from the weekend to today. I knew it was coming, so I was trying to prepare.
Same.
We were you soaked in all of the great weather as long as you could.
Thank you to you and Gibby as well.
No, thank you needed. How did you end up? Did you match the first with the back?
I didn't go 34-34, no, but I played 3 days this week, and I have a 72, a 73, and a 74, so I felt pretty.
No 60s.
No 60s.
I was hoping with that 34 that we'd get a 69 or a 68
I know,
out of it.
74 with a double on a shot, a good drive, but they've kind of like shaved this hill now, and so if you go through the fairway, it just goes away, and I should have not hit the driver. Sad. But I felt very good.
All
played
wins
well.
Across the way.
Yeah.
The rest
and
of the
the last hole, the kid was on a heater himself, and I was against him. I was opposite the kid, and I needed to birdie the last hole, which is a good long par 4. Hit my drive down the middle. I was about 120, and I hit it to like 2 feet. I needed it,
and you had to have it.
Had to have it. So that felt good. Whenever you can come through, it felt good. So again, thank you guys. It was great to be out there. I feel like you got to take advantage of it in this town because I got hailed on today.
Today, yeah.
After
on the way back,
2 days of just pure joy.
Yeah, we had a lot of great weather. Great weekend. It held off for much of the weekend. It wasn't until Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, right.
That you kind of got hit with it a little bit. So.
How's Bootsy in the pool? Give us the whole.
Thriving.
I mean, I saw the video.
His best life.
Yeah.
He's been excited. He's been lots of swims, morning swims, night swims.
Did he demand the robe?
No demanding of the robe yet. I'm sure that will come.
Bootsy.
I think the most newsworthy event that happened on the Ponderosa this weekend was the behavior of Buddy Garrity. Was not sure what to make of the pool.
Oh.
And despite the fact that him being a retriever, it would be natural for him to be good at it.
Do a little doggy paddle.
So I tried taking him in, I want to say on Friday, like trying to carry him in because I think that he's going to have fun here. And so I tried taking him in, and he scratched the living hell out of me. And then on yesterday morning, we were around. And so what he does is he mother hens it. It's like I can't tell if he's like worried that the boys are in trouble or if he wants to like play with them.
Yep.
So he basically just runs around the edge nonstop as they're in it, just running, sprinting. And yesterday, he's like got a little bit too close to the flame and fell in.
No way.
Yeah. So my wife, you would have thought that like a 6-week-old child fell in.
That was incapable of swimming.
Panic, screaming. Oh, my God. I'm like, easy. Like I take my time. I take my hoodie off. I put my phone down. I go in. By the time I get in, she has already been into the house and is out with a towel. I go, and the Buddy Garrity just swims right to me. He's a retriever, man. He knows how to swim.
He's going to dog paddle.
He's going to doggy paddle. That's it. He just zip, swims right over to me. Now, he didn't go back in, but he was more than capable of handling his business. Yeah. He swam to the shore, and then that was it. So that was kind of the most noteworthy. I'm going to, real quick AAU story, because the boys are back in town. We'll get to that in a second. I was at the Drew Joyce AAU tournament with my oldest this weekend at the IX Center. So I was over here.
Oh, wow.
We had very conveniently timed games of 8, 1, and 4:45. So that was good on Saturday. And then he had lacrosse at 7:30 at night. So it was a full day for NBC. I want you to guess the admission price per person over the age of 8 to get in to watch AAU. Second grade through junior and high school. Admission price.
$20.
$12.
40.
What?
40. Yeah, that's right.
So you're playing in it?
That's right.
If he's
playing, he's in, but then I got to pay 40.
40 to go.
Yeah, and then they had
40?
40. And then the bands were the like club bands. So like you couldn't transfer it to somebody else. So then my wife, because she did the later game, she was 40, 80 in to watch.
How many people would you estimate attended this event?
Somewhere greater than, somewhere slightly less than 1.5 million, and slightly more than 200,000, somewhere in that range. No, I'm not kidding you. On the amount of teams, I had to think that there were at least 250 or 300 teams.
This is the biggest scam going. Whoever's running this.
Well, it's Drew Joyce.
Well,
LeBron's coach. But I mean, from a team standpoint, I mean, here's the teams. I don't know, is that 300?
Okay, so you got to imagine there's.
Yeah, you can do the math.
$40.
So you got to think there's what?
Now, it was also $10 to park, because isn't that the IX deal?
Yeah.
If you go there, then they get you on the parking.
Yes.
So if there's even if there's only 20 people,
you figure
per team.
You figure 1.5 parent per kid.
Okay,
is what you're dealing with, and you're talking an average of probably 9 kids on a team.
So 13, roughly. We'll call it 15 for the sake of it. Times, let's just say there's 300 teams, because that looked like there could be 300 teams.
Yeah.
At 15 people per team, 4,500 times 40.
That's right.
So he's making close to $200,000.
Well, he's got to pay. There's a bunch of people working it. It was a hell of a tournament, but yeah, it's a biggie. It was crazy. It was really crazy. And
probably more than that, concessions and.
Well, I'm guessing that's an IX situation. I don't know how all that works, but it was a scene, man, and cash only.
Sure, it is.
You're standing at 7.
Sure, it is.
You're there at 7:30 in the morning, and you're standing next to all these people. Like, nobody carries $40 in cash.
No,
it was pure luck that I had a 50.
Ever.
I never have cash, never. And I happen to have a 50. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't even.
Like,
where's a
PNC
PNC
it costs
for me to
enter
go
your
through?
team into this magical little field?
Yeah, I was
too.
gonna say, think about the revenue streams. We're just looking at
There's
one.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
The fleecing of America, right here.
Youth sports, baby.
5 years.
I bet there's
away.
over $250,000.
Or 5 minutes away.
Easy.
I think you're probably right. I think that's pretty easy.
What a joke!
How that was operated.
Insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. Absolutely.
I do miss. I am sad that I that I had that brief moment with Artie Buckets, but that I'm not participant in great many sports. They're performing in other ways, which is awesome and fun, and they're involved, and that's all great. But I am also quite pleased. At some point this would be hard for me to.
It's hard.
Stomach.
Ask any parent who's in it. It's really tough, because you just go, "What are we doing? What the hell are we doing here, man?
Why are we giving all these people money?
What are we doing? It's absolutely nuts."
Well, because just to take a step back, and then it's because it's an AAU tournament. That means it's an AAU team, which comes with its own set of fees.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean. The entry fee to get your team into.
Well, and
to play on the team.
To play on the team.
Just to play.
Yeah, it's a perpetual. And this is, we're having a little. I just experienced this weekend, so it's top of mind. But this is true of baseball, of 7-on-7 football, of any of this stuff. It's all this. It's just a perpetual.
We just played. I felt like we just in our back.
I think you did.
Back in our day, we just played.
I know that's what I become. We become back in our day guys.
Totally.
You played AAU, but I don't think
I didn't play
probably
AAU.
This young. I didn't either. We didn't have it.
No, well, we didn't have it till high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second graders.
And I was playing other sports.
There were second graders. There was a second grade team that lost 49-2. What's gained? What are we doing? As a quick soapbox, the biggest issue other than all of that with the youth sports is they are desensitized by the amount of games. So winning and losing doesn't really matter. They don't get joy in the wins, and they don't get much sorrow in the defeat, because they just play in an hour. So they play so much that there's no outcome. Like, wins and losses don't really resonate, because they're going to play again in 2 hours. And then even if they're done today, they're going to play 3 more tomorrow. And it's like, I see it across all age groups. Like, they play
and that leads all the way up to what the problem is in the NBA.
It's
with
just too
82 meaningless regular season games.
Yeah. It's the AAUification of sports is what we've seen. By the way, the NBA was great this weekend. I know it didn't go well for us here, but several of those games were sensational. They were really good.
We're only 1 game in.
Yeah, it was good.
And it is madness.
It's loaded.
It's really good.
But that's the whole season is largely irrelevant.
It is. Yeah. Now that you're in the the Lakers are a 7 and they're up 1-0 on Memphis.
Sure.
And no, it is. Miami beat Milwaukee.
And you're supposed to. It's April. This won't end until the middle of June.
Yeah, and mid to end. Yeah.
So you have 2 months.
Yeah.
Like
2 months of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 months is a big chunk of the NFL season, including the postseason.
Yeah. The Cavs off to a rough start. That's it's a brutal matchup for them. The Knicks are
I don't know why
matchup.
so many people wanted this one.
I think they wanted the stage, right? You wanted to play Madison Square Garden and have everybody watching. But
I don't know.
It's a bad matchup. They took 3 out of 4 in
Yeah.
the regular season. They're more physical. They bully. 51-38 on the rebounds.
Yeah, they got out-rebounded.
Yeah. You're going to need – they're not very deep, but quite frankly, you're going to need – you can't have Mitchell shooting 30 shots and doing all of it. Garland and Mobley need to be stars. They've both been all-stars. They need to be all-stars.
Yes, absolutely. And and maybe again, this was my first jump ball to finish Cavs game of the season, like sitting and watching an entire Cavs game. And maybe I'm wrong about this, and happy to be wrong, but it doesn't feel to me like in critical possessions when Brunson has the ball that Chetty is our best option to defend him.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it felt like that happened, and I'm like, why is this happening?
But and I know that, I understand that he was, I don't think he was the best option by any stretch, but I would also say his shooting got you kind of warmed up and got everybody a little looser and allowed Donovan to go off in the fourth quarter. But, like, make him drive. Just don't let him shoot it.
Yeah.
I mean, if he gets around you, so be it, but at least he's not – because all he did was dribble, pop from 20 feet. Dribble, and that's where he's good at. That's what he's good at. Make him put it on the ground.
The thing that is overwhelming when you watch this, I watched all the Cavs game, quite a bit of the Kings and Warriors actually on Saturday night, which was awesome, and then almost all the Lakers game yesterday against Memphis.
I believe we had that.
Yeah, juxtaposed to the college game.
Oh my God!
The ability of these human beings to shoot the basketball is stunning. If they are open, you're talking 6'9", 6'11" guys open from 22 feet. It's down. Down. Like that is the skill of the NBA player, and the length and size of the NBA player with skill is the single biggest change in the sport from when we were young to what it is now. I mean, it's you're watching guys 6'10". I'm watching Jaren Jackson. I'm watching Ryo Hachimura. You watch these guys just if they're open and they got this much space, it's down on it. It was crazy.
And they can like even Mitchell hit a step back that
you
would have thought was a total force back today, but that's
the shot
open
now.
To them now.
Yeah, the range
he's releasing it like this over the hand.
Yeah, the range of the NBA player is absolutely crazy.
Silly.
What's happened. All right, from an NFL perspective,
a lot actually.
Lots going on. We'll get to the Hurts stuff as well, but our guys are back. We're back, baby.
I saw
the social post this morning. Good job out of the social media team. Our guys back in the building. Z, what's happening?
What's happening?
Yeah,
with our guys.
Yeah.
So
what is this about? Yeah. It's voluntary off-season workouts. I know that a ton of our guys were here. I saw Miles and Chief and all these guys. Just from a nuts and bolts for the fans out there, what's going on right now? Because I think sometimes when we see voluntary off-season workout, you think, oh, they're going to be out there 11 on 11 slinging it around. No, that's not it at all.
No, at all. In fact, they're just able to basically work out now. So
workout and classroom instruction.
Workouts, classroom instruction only. And so this is phase 1 of the off-season program. And then you don't get into practices or anything like that until you get into the OTAs, which typically will start the week of May 22nd. And for us, it will conclude June 8th. We're lopping a little bit off of ours OTA program and then accelerating our mandatory minicamp because we start a week earlier than everybody other than the Jets after the break in July because of the Hall of Fame game. So we'll be shorter there. But yeah, this is strictly.
I don't know the difference. There's a phase 1 and then there's a phase 2. Phase 1 is now through draft night.
Yep.
So this is they're working out in their classrooms.
Yeah. Phase 2, I feel like maybe they could do something on the field, but I don't know what it is.
Here it is. Phase 1 consists of the first 2 weeks of the program, with activities limited to meetings, strength and conditioning, and physical rehabilitation only. Phase 2 consists of the next 3 weeks of the program. On-field workouts may include individual or group instruction and drills, as well as perfect play drills and drills and plays with the offensive players lining up across from offensive players and defensive players lining up across from defensive players conducted at a walk-through pace. No live contact or team offense versus team defense drills are permitted. So perfect plays are like on air, where you just run the play on air and go down the field. You can have offense standing there, but it's at a walkthrough pace.
Okay.
Phase 3 is the next 4 weeks of the program. Teams may conduct a total of 10 days of organized team practice activity, or OTAs. No live contact is permitted, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills are permitted. 9-on-7.
I think
center, maybe. Center, and I don't know, what would the other one be?
I think that is 7-on-7, though. It's usually
center,
your 5
QB,
skills, center, QB.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if it's
2 guards, maybe, for some reason.
Yeah.
Tackles? I don't know. Maybe it's 7-on-9. Maybe it's harder for you. Maybe they get some defense. You get a couple of rushers or something. Who knows?
Be.
Anyway.
So I think
Yep.
think 6, maybe 8 OTAs.
For us this year, it'll probably be 7.
The second week of that OTAs is Memorial Day week. I feel like there might be a charity golf outing in there.
Sure.
So, and then 4 days of mandatory minicamp that first full week in June.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what it is. There we go. And away
it's
we
like running
go.
downhill right now to the season.
Oh God, I can't. I don't even. I'm not ready for that. I
the
can't.
ball's
do that
already
yet.
starting to roll with today.
I can't do that. It's. Let me live summer.
Yeah.
And we don't get much of it, man.
I agree.
Let me have a little sun. Let's live a little bit here.
We will.
The Hoff overachieving.
The Hoff overachieving is going to put a little dent on the back end of it. But we're still good. There's going to be plenty of time in June and July. Plenty of time.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about all that.
But right now, it's time to get in here, get to work, and the good news is for the meetings, this is going to be the first opportunities for us on offense to really kind of see on a whiteboard for these players and to conceptualize what this offense is going to be now that it is Deshaun Watson's football team. Defensively, Jim Schwartz. Special teams, Bubba Ventrone. So these for us, I think, are actually very important meetings and times so that, this is not going to be – there will be plenty of stuff that is built upon from the offense from a year ago, but there's going to be a lot of new stuff. And then defensively, it's makes the terminology, it's new schemes, new styles, and figuring all that stuff out.
Yeah, it's you kind of laid out the critical things that got to get done, and it really is. You're very fortunate in that. Well, you tell me if I'm overstepping. With the possible exception to defensive tackle-ish, defensive end-ish, does it seem almost impossible for anybody drafted to this team to be someone who could pencil in and go? I mean, theoretically, a third-round D tackle could play themselves into position to be
competing with Alex Wright.
Yeah, be in there battling.
Perry on now.
Oh, who knows?
Jordan Elliott, yeah.
So those positions, but everything else is kind of like locked in. Yeah, running back. You'd have to get past Jerome Ford, who's I think people like a lot, but that would be one. But other than that, it feels like you're pretty locked in.
The only other one I would throw out is third safety.
Okay.
A third safety has a chance to be in the mix early if they get somebody that they liked in the 3rd round or in the 4th round, and
somebody pops.
Yeah,
it's an up. I guess my point is it's uphill for anybody that's drafted by this team to be like a week 1 starter.
Oh yeah,
way uphill.
And there's no way that if they were in theory to draft every pick that they currently have in this draft, if they were to make a selection, there is no way all those people make the 53. Zero.
Oh, no. Yeah, no,
Zero.
We've been talking about that. Like, there's 0 chance 8 people are coming in here that were drafted. There's just
which
no
is
chance
why
for that.
You pointed out, and I would agree with your astute observation, that I think a lot of this will get pushed. Some of these picks late will get pushed into a better round next year.
Yeah, you see that going forward a little bit. We do have a little bit of news from our team. Per his agent, the Browns have re-signed guard Michael Dunn, so he's back in the mix.
Yeah, and we got to see him in Indy. He was actually there with his agent, David Canner, and I got to talk to him at, was it Prime? And he wanted to come back, and so now they've done it, and that kind of really solidifies you on the backup of your interior line. I mean, you look at your line now, you've got your starters, and then your backups. You've got James Hudson outside. You got Drew Forbes is back. You got now Michael Dunn is back.
Yeah, Harris is still in the middle.
Nick Harris is still in the middle. So that's like 9 guys right there. Dawson Deaton, who you drafted a year ago. But, you're pretty good there as well.
Yeah.
Maybe a tackle in the draft.
You could see that or you could see more of a veteran guy. But, I mean, Hudson's going into his third year now. And don't forget, the Browns always have the ability, because he has shown it, that you could, as the Browns did in the 2021 season, put Bitonio at tackle for a couple games, and you put Dunn in at left guard next to him. So
Bitonio was a dude at tackle.
He was like the top 3 in the league.
Remember, that's amazing.
Yeah, we started in that, but from left to right was Bitonio, Dunn, Nick Harris in Green Bay.
Right.
Yeah.
On Christmas.
God.
And then I think Teller Conklin.
Out.
What?
Christmas
I
in
blocked
Green
that
Bay,
out of my
baby.
head.
Christmas in Green
You're
Bay.
there, man.
Yeah, so that's where you go on this. The team also signed quarterback Thomas Graham. He's an exclusive rights player.
I liked him, and he's a guy who's going to be a slot. Yep.
Yeah. So there's some more guys in the mix now, and now the work gets done of getting the terminology, especially for the defensive guys, new terminology to learn, new jobs to learn in terms of what your responsibilities are. I talked to Tyvus on Friday, and we were talking about, he played obviously in a lot of very different defensive systems, and he explained a situation he had in Arizona where a phrase in the defenses that he played in Seattle and San Francisco meant to come up, and that exact same phrase in Arizona meant to drop back. So like he goes, those are the things that are tricky for these guys, because there's a new terminology and a new language to learn on all of these fronts. Lots to get to on the program today. 3 goals for this team as it gets into the offseason program. We got a lot of news around the NFL. We'll get to the Jalen Hurts stuff, but Budda Baker as well could be in the mix. Some stuff on DeAndre Hopkins that's out there as well. We will also continue our tour around the league. We are going to deal with New England today, which kind of feels like a road to nowhere team right now. We will get to all of that. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Welcome in Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Gibbe wants to know, over the course of the next couple of months, what are your top 3 goals for the team and the offseason program? I guess first we would have to know, here's the thing that's tricky.
Talk to us, Gibbe.
Is it a goal?
Well, here's the thing that's tricky. Can we acknowledge that most likely we will learn, us, the collective, will learn next to nothing the next 2 months?
What do you hope to learn, maybe?
Well, I think this speaks to the bigger picture, right? Because it's I'm for it. I'm just trying to wrap, because the thing that is so difficult is we will get this window in June to watch things.
Yep.
Right? And it'll be this short little window. And I'm just thinking back to the year that the three of us, I'm pretty sure it was the year, it was 21. Was it 21? I think it was 21. And we were sitting right out here doing the show, and we watched Odell run precise routes, and we watched Baker hit him in stride. And we made a big damn deal of Baker going up to Odell and correcting a little nuance he was doing in the route.
Yep.
And Odell took that correction very well.
Yep.
And you thought, okay, you're coming off of a team that went to Kansas City and gave them everything, and you're a stop away. You're a Chad Henne scramble away of playing for an AFC championship. You went to Pittsburgh and won. You'd gotten through the COVID year, and now all of a sudden we're got all the momentum in the world, and we've got Odell looking like 100% Odell, and let's go. And 6 months later he's traded or released or whatever ended up happening. So I guess what I'm saying is how much can we really learn? I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about the team. They can learn a lot. There's a lot of work that's going to be done for them, and they've got to learn a lot in terms of defensively, what's going to happen offensively. But in terms of us, what can we be sure of? How do you make sure that what you're watching isn't fool's gold?
You can't be sure of anything, but I do think what we can learn is how does this scheme differ from what we have seen in the past in all phases of this football team. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, and we've said this ad nauseum, and I'll say it again in case you're just listening for the first time, welcome. This is all about Deshaun Watson. So what we can learn is Deshaun Watson doing things that he wasn't doing last year, for example? Is he taking the layups? Are the layups layups? Is he allowing himself to not try to make the home run play every play? Is he able to throw the quick ones? What's the work that he's put in? Is it back to him, everything being second nature as opposed to in, what he had to deal with? And he looked very good at times last year.
Well, that's the other
in the practice.
That's what I mean. Even in the in the practice, there were we sat out here training camp and went, good God almighty, look at this. And there were practices even in the end of the season where you went, you saw a lot of that.
Where we'll be able to see here, I think that he's going to look great throwing the ball. I think he's going to throw it very effectively. I think what you'll be able to see is the decision-making, the quickness with which he decides where to go to with the football, the accuracy of that, not of the throw, of the decision that he is making. Is the ball going where it's supposed to go? Is he seeing it clearly? Has the game slowed down for him? That's the thing. Last year, we had practices, and then you have the games, and things got better, but it was up and down. There were great moments in every game, but there wasn't that consistency. This is how I'll know. If we're doing 7-on-7s and the ball just isn't hitting the ground ever, if it's looking like what it looks like when you have an elite quarterback, which we have not really seen.
I was just going to say, what you just described, we have not had here.
No. So that is something that you would be able to take away from this.
Now, you've been at camps. I've been at camps. I remember Carson Palmer in Cincinnati. That would happen when they had Ocho Cinco and Hushmanzada, and Palmer before the injury he just spun it wherever he wanted it. The ball never hit. Same thing with Manning and the Colts.
And Romo and Dallas, because I had people who were at a lot of those camps, and they were the ones who told me, like, this is not that.
Yeah.
This is how it was with Romo.
Yeah.
So that's stuff that we can see. That's stuff that we will be very interested to see. One thing, and this is a smaller thing, but I think this holds up very well, is Cade York making everything?
Yeah.
How's he kicking the ball? I think that's something that we can observe when we get to see that. Like, is he just drilling everything? Does he seem more confident? Does he look like a megastar? And then, you can also learn the designs and the rotations. What are they thinking, at least initially, here? How will they deploy Elijah Moore with Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones? How will they employ Akins with David Njoku in some 2 tight end sets? What does that look like for our team? Who is the third down back? That's something we don't know yet. Now, could you sign Jerick McKinnon? I've advocated for that, I think, quite a bit, and I would love that. But if not, what does that look like? So there are some things you can learn. But in terms of, we see what we saw, and then we know for sure we're going to go and be legit, to me, the first test of, okay, we can be legit is when we go to Philly for those joint practices.
That's it, man.
That's the first
I
test.
was just going to say, it's Philly joint practice.
Yeah, if we look legit there, we look like we
can
absolutely
we block them?
belong.
Can we tackle them? Can we run with them? Can we hang with them? If you can, then you go.
Yes.
Then you go. And that's kind of it. Because, as you're going through a lot of that stuff, all that stuff that we're all curious about, as you were going into the Cade York thing, I'm just thinking to myself, like, yeah, but I need to see him do it in the games.
Yep.
I mean, you were at those warm-ups where he would kick it from either hash 1,000 yards away right down the middle, and you'd be like, what can't this dude do? But then it came to the games, and it got in his head, and he struggled.
Yep.
So that's a game thing. The DeShaun thing is a game thing. Like, he's got to go to games and go be the player that he was a couple of years ago. I think isn't 1, 2, and 3, like, this is an offensive game, man.
Yes, we've got to be able to score.
1, 2, and 3 is, can this offense look the way that the collective should look?
Yes, the talent, yes.
It has to. I mean, that has to. You got a month. So when I think about end of camp and then entering into training camp and getting to Philly between now and then, you got to be cohesive there, man. And you've got to be elite by the time you get to July.
Yeah.
And certainly September. But that's it. It's so that whatever the best of it is, I think the number one thing for this entire organization is, how do you get the best out of Deshaun Watson?
Period.
And second's eighth.
Stay healthy.
Yeah.
But he asked for 3 things. You could write Watson, Watson, Watson. I mean, that's it. That's what this is about. If Deshaun Watson is the guy that we saw in Houston on our team, we're going to be great. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yep. And the reason that the rest of it, because we're not good enough on the defensive line. Are we good enough here? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, yeah, you need all those things. You need an opportunistic defense. You need one that can get a timely sack or a timely interception, like that's needed. But people can come this up and down all day long on you, and you can still win.
Yep.
It's in a moment can you create a big play, the way that Jones has for Kansas City in recent years, the way that some of those Cincinnati defenders have in recent years. Can you make a play, Logan Wilson? Can you make one when your team needs it? Can you do that?
Yep.
Because you're going to do this. You're going to go between the 20s, and can you turn trips into the 20 into field goals instead of touchdowns? That's where this league is right now.
Yeah.
And so
can you, right.
And then can you do the opposite?
And you make sure you score touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And unfortunately, and this speaks to where we are, in the old days, before you had Deshaun Watson and you had this young team that was ascending, and we were asking questions like this, we could say, I got to know who's going to step up at second receiver. Who's the number one receiver? What's the timeshare at this, and this? Man, we're on a razor's edge right now. You have a roster that is fully formed, whose best players have been paid and are in their prime.
Yeah, that's why there's urgency.
They got to go.
That's why there's
it's
urgency.
Time to go. And the only way that the only for sure way of knowing what that looks like is going to be the games. That's it. You're going to get a pretty good taste of it in Philly.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. Well, because they're going to want to, I think, impart their will on us as they did last year. That gave them, I'm sure, buoyed their confidence. Because we looked pretty okay the first day, and then the second day it was
the first day we were fine, and then the second day it went the other way.
Yeah,
pretty bigly. Yeah, and you saw it. And they had, it's interesting for them, and we'll get to him in just a second in the next segment. But everything around them was, can Jalen Hurts go? I mean, that was it. It wasn't everything else. They walked off the bus, and you said, well, they got all the rest of it. Do they have that guy? But that's where this league is right now, and that's where this team is in the league. This is a team that has been built curated, put together with the idea of go win the Lombardi. The standard in the AFC is incredibly high, and our best players right now should be all at their best. So there's not – we just did – I mean, hell, last segment we were talking about the rookies in the draft. Like, there's not really any spot for any of them. Like, to start –
no, there's opportunities to be rotational, or maybe you could shock the world at D-tackle.
Yeah.
But it's more to be a rotational guy, get a role as a third safety, get a role as a third down back, get a role as a situational pass rusher. That's it. And I think Alex Wright hopefully is coming in this year and being like, I'm going to end up starting. I'm going to beat out Umbo, So we've got talent. We've got to stay healthy. I think that we've talked a little bit about our lineup is set, but I think there are some depth questions along the defensive line. I think there's depth question. I like your top 4 corners quite a bit, especially your top 3, and then A.J. Green has been very, very solid for you. Maybe get Graham back. That gives you 5, but that's what you're talking about. Can guys come in and fill in depth and then become what we need, down the road? Because we still do also have a lot of guys, especially if we were to draft a linebacker. I don't know who he beats out at this point. I don't get that, but we have so many guys that are on the last year of their deals in that room that, you can always do a lot of one-year deals at that spot, but you need also have some succession planning. But no, there's meaningful minutes and a huge role right out of the gate out of this rookie class. It just doesn't seem likely. The Elijah Moore trade eliminated whatever chance there was for that at receiver, and I think it also, now that Marquise Goodwin is officially official, this roster is pretty good. I mean, we could put together a 53 right now that doesn't include rookies. That's done. That's it. That's the team.
Yeah, and you'd feel very good about it.
There'd be a couple things where you'd say, "Oh, well, maybe we could add
this
there." But
and they could still. I mean, that there's a lot of veterans still out there in free agency. You mentioned McKinnon several times at running back. There's still guys on the defensive line that are out there. You don't know what their motivation is in terms of when they will play, or if they want to wait until a little bit later in the game. Most veterans aren't real keen on an extra week of training camp. So, it could be something where you sit that out a week or something. Who knows? So there's certainly a few tweaks here or there. But this will be my 6th season, and this is my 5th, off-season workout. We've never had a team that doesn't have anything like what you just did to say, here's our 53. Every year we've gone into the draft and go, well, we need a left tackle. Yeah. We need a corner. We need this. No, you don't. If one materializes, it's a tremendous bonus, but it's not needed.
To be fair, last year was similar in some sense.
It just was not, because we just Watson. We didn't know. We didn't have it was hanging over. We had no idea how long is he going to sit out. What's the suspension going to look like on that? And then we just didn't know when we would ever see him. Like, that's certainty now. He's starting week 1.
Yep.
Barring injury, he's starting. So what is that? That's that part of it, and that's probably why the work being done right now is more critical than ever, because there aren't a lot of significant pieces that are going to be added via the draft, potentially free agency. And if anything's added in either late free agency or the draft, it's an incredible bonus.
Totally. Yep.
It's not a must.
No.
And so
that's why we're in a good spot.
Yeah. The attitude is just very, very different around here. The attitude, you mentioned Philly. Big news out of Philly today. I did not see this one coming at all. We will get to that story coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. There's a new way to cheer on your Cleveland Browns with the help of your favorite four-legged companion, Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the Browns' newest club for pet parents worldwide. Sign up today at barkingbackers.com. Barking Backers, the fan club for dogs. This, as Buford T. Justice would say, was an attention-getter. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts reached an agreement on a 5-year, $255 million extension, 180 of it or thereabouts guaranteed. The deal could actually be worth upwards of $275 if he reaches certain incentives. It makes Jalen Hurts the highest paid player in the National Football League. There are a lot of ways to go here. I do think we'd be remiss not to mention how improbable this was if you were to go back in time 4 years ago, or hell, even last year in camp, and to think that this was going to be the case. It is a stunning thing. This is a guy who was benched at Alabama because he couldn't throw it, and went to Oklahoma, and then the rest has been history. I'm not putting all of the success on Oklahoma, but they made him a quarterback, at least in the eyes of the NFL, and he's done the rest. And so from that standpoint, it's nuts. Beyond that, and I'll come to you on this, my friend, did you ever think this deal would be done before Burrow's deal or Herbert's deal?
No, certainly not, but I think that it makes it easier for those deals to get done. I think that
it depends on the attitude of their agents.
This deal, $255, 5 years, $255, including 180 guaranteed. So that puts him 180. That puts him at what, 45 guaranteed or 44 guaranteed a year, if I'm doing that math right.
I trust you. Private school.
I don't know. It doesn't sound right either. 5 years, $40 million guaranteed would be 200, and we're off 20 of that, so take 4 off, so $36 million a year guaranteed, fully. So that means they should be able to get Burrow, Herbert, even Lamar. This should help Lamar's deal as well.
I think great job by Philly and Howie for getting ahead of the curve, getting their man
so they
under
signed him
contract
to the highest,
and
but it's also
paid.
nothing. It's not. I mean, it's obviously the highest deal ever, richest
Right.
contract,
but it's not, because Mahomes was $400 million
for 10.
So it's per year. It's the highest.
Yes.
If he gets all the money that's available to him,
Correct.
it'll be per year the highest individual.
Yeah.
What I think is it remains tricky about all of this is that this isn't $230 million guaranteed.
Correct.
So if you are Burrow or you are Herbert, are you going to say? And I think what the NFL, I'm talking about the NFL as a collective, is saying is the situation with Watson was unique in that this was a prime player in his prime available. And because of that, there was a bidding war among various teams for his services. But this is not the new standard. It's not. And we aren't going to go near it.
Right.
This is nowhere near it. This is $50 million guaranteed less.
Yep.
This is over one more year. The Watson's deal is 4 and 230. This is 5 and 255, potentially up to 275, but it's 180 guaranteed. So if you're Herbert, if you are Burrow, if you are Lamar, does this make a dent at all in you? Or do you say, I don't care about this. What I care about is the 230.
Right. That's for teams to negotiate, but what it feels like is that this is now the DeShaun Watson deal will be looked at as an outlier, not as the norm.
And that is what the NFL
That's what the NFL
hopes
wants. Well,
and
that's
wants
I think
it to
a lot
be.
of the owners.
And the owners want that to be the case.
Correct.
That is the case. But that'll be to the individual player and their representation. And of these guys that we're talking about, you've already seen Lamar's leverage. It doesn't feel like he has much.
No.
The way that he's played it has not been the best. And so conversely, Baltimore's played it very well from their perspective. Maybe not from a PR perspective, or maybe not from a perspective of wrecking their relationship with Lamar.
Yeah.
But in terms of protecting themselves, they played it very well.
Watson went I want to jump in there. It was 5 years.
230.
Right.
Yeah, fully. Yep.
At 4,
my mistake.
At 4 would have
been quite a bit.
Heck of a deal.
Heck of a deal, yeah.
Sure.
Well, they all are.
Yeah, they are.
But Burrow and Herbert, and especially when you know those ownerships, families in both situations,
Correct.
Spanos and Brown family,
Correct.
how eager are they to get anywhere near this? I think the assumption down in Cincinnati is Burrow will do them a solid, but I don't know that. I don't know if he'll do them a solid and say I don't need to be near that. Who knows?
Correct. And, do they try to do like a 10-year deal? But again, whatever is guaranteed with this in the escrow, that rule should just go away, and then everybody should be able to do whatever they want. These are NFL teams. They are not in any danger of defaulting and not being able to pay their players. They basically can pay their players right off of the TV deal. So I do think that this is a big deal for the league, though. And I really think that this deal happening will spur Herbert, Burrow, and Lamar's deals to get done. I really do. I think that this was a big deal, and this kind of, when Kirk Cousins was basically playing every year on guaranteed contracts too, that was the question: did Kirk Cousins change the game? Is it going to be all fully guaranteed contracts? Well, the answer is no. This one right here says definitively no. What Kirk Cousins did, working franchise tags and then signing short guaranteed deals, that's an outlier. And then obviously the Deshaun Watson deal that the Browns, made and other teams would have matched, but the Browns probably felt that they had to make it to lock this up, and that was kind of them paying a tax based on everything that's happened probably for decades before.
Yep.
But that is not being adopted by the league, and there were a lot of owners around the league that certainly did not want that to be the case, that was going to be adopted.
Yeah. I am surprised that the Burrow deal has not been done yet. I really am, because there was a lot of people I talked to down there who thought it would come almost right after the season. Talked to Jay Morrison. I believe we've had Jay on before here. Talked to him maybe a month ago, and there was a deadline in March that once it got past that point, that silly escrow situation got pushed back a year. And he said, my hunch is I would see this end of March, early April. We'll see a deal done with Burrow, that the framework of it has all been locked in and they're set. And yet here we sit. It's April 17th. There's no panic, but it's just I do think that they thought it would be done by now. So because they've got a lot of business to do down there. I mean, two of these are teams in our division.
Sure.
I mean, this Lamar situation is pretty crazy. A couple of weeks before the draft, it just seems impossible to me that the Baltimore Ravens will not have clarity, that they would go into a draft without clarity at that position. Seems insane to me.
Right, and I think they feel that they've got clarity. I don't think that there's any way, at least as of now, that Lamar Jackson plays for anybody other than the Ravens. Now, that could change. Obviously, somebody could make an offer that the Ravens aren't willing to match, but it doesn't feel like that's imminent. It doesn't seem like, if you judge what people have said publicly, there's anybody even trying to get Lamar. The teams that make sense, which is anybody in the NFC that isn't set at quarterback, which is the majority of the NFC.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, we did the Falcons last week, like paratroop him into that. Orlando.
B. Orlando, but B.
Orlando didn't know his roster as well as I think maybe you'd expect somebody to.
B. Orlando did not have command of that roster.
Now, D. Orlando would have nailed it.
Crushed it.
Yeah, B, less so.
You know what? It's interesting. Peter King this morning in his Football Morning in America talked about the archaic, stupid NFL's insistence on keeping the archaic funding rule for contracts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it's ridiculous.
Still
Get rid of
keeping
it.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Zach Taylor spoke today down in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And the one thing about them is, because people always point to the Higgins deal, you got to get the Higgins deal done. They don't. He's still under contract. They could just play that out with Higgins this year and shoot for the moon with this group. It's a risky proposition, obviously, because you could get a nice return from him right now if you were trying to be involved in that. I see no scenario where Higgins isn't playing for them next year and that they don't go all in and try to make it. Now, I don't know if they do a long term with him or what that looks like, but they've got a lot of irons in the fire right now down there.
Which is interesting because you've got to keep that group together. You just got to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yes. It's also weird, like they still have Mixon on the roster. Like, it's just a really weird.
Well, that I don't understand why that's happening.
No, and nor do people down there.
Yeah.
They don't understand it either. So that thing's hanging out, and so there's just a lot of things that are floating around when it comes to that operation. There's a lot more to get to, by the way, around the league. We will do that coming up at the top. We'll turn our attention to New England as well. Lots of stuff coming up here in the second hour of the program. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk and Elk Serious Lawyers, Serious Injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk and Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. A couple other things around the league. Budda Baker requesting a trade. Was he the guy we said? He was the guy we said.
That we would take off their team.
Off Arizona. Yeah. I think we said we would
Budda
take
Baker.
him.
So
they're talking about a 2, though, right, for Budda Baker?
Yeah, I don't know how that would work out. And, again, that comes with a big salary. And we've got our 2 starting safeties. We're looking for a 3rd safety on the cheap. We're not looking for – now, Budda Baker would be our best safety, obviously. I just don't – you can't have everything. It is not truly fantasy football. You cannot have everything.
I think sometimes it felt like that around here because so many of our guys were on rookie contracts.
Yeah.
You know, like when your starting quarterback was on a rookie contract, your running backs were on rookie contracts, Miles is on a rookie contract, Denzel's on a rookie contract.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
Then it's really easy to go big game hunting. You can't really do that now.
By the way, Chosen Anderson has signed with the Dolphins on a 1-year deal. Formerly Robbie Anderson.
Oh, I didn't. I'm glad you clarified because I don't know who in the hell Chosen Robinson is.
He is now going by.
Robbie Anderson's with the Dolphins too?
Chosen Anderson is, yes.
That feels like just an embarrassment of riches.
He's got a little bit of speed. I mean, he didn't do much, to be fair, in Arizona. So
no, but I mean, that was post-Kyler.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, have you seen the greatest, before we get on to a couple more of these, the greatest NIL deal ever?
I mean, this is my world, so I've seen some good ones. What is as you clarify it the best?
Bijan Mustardson. It's the official Bijan.
I did see that.
Of Bijan.
Bijan Robinson. Here's what I don't know about NIL, and I ask all my buddies in Columbus about all this all the time because I just don't know. What is the ROI for a company on investing heavily in a 19 to 21-year-old to move your product? I understand that that's not what NIL is about right now. Right now, NIL is about I am a big swinging you-know-what, and I will go help Big State U get the player that I want.
Yep.
And he's my guy. That's what it is. I mean, it's old school booster stuff is all it is. It's now just above board.
Buddy Geary.
But in terms of like – absolutely. But in terms of like if you own a car dealership and you give a bunch of Ohio State football and basketball players cars to drive around, is that driving business to your dealership?
I think it's possible. It's possible.
I don't know. I ask. I don't have an answer for it.
I don't know. I mean,
it's an awareness play more than anything else.
Certainly an awareness play.
But in terms of direct getting your money back, I don't know what that is.
No, I think you're buying some experiences.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. This is a part of what you're doing. And then, I'm sure you're hoping to make that money back from the business standpoint. But you have to look at that on some level as a loss leader. Like,
sure.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's probably pretty fun for those people that have the necessary means to do it.
I guess. It is. It's working right now for everybody in that sense, except for the coaches who have to try to wrap their heads around it. Brock Purdy did an interview with Yahoo Sports over the weekend. No longer wearing a brace on his surgically repaired throwing arm, meaning his recovery is going well. But in the seventh paragraph, the author drops this bombshell. That remains an early step in recovery. Purdy saying Friday he's not really sure, honestly, whether he'll play in 2023. Sheesh.
So this got totally lost in things.
Yeah.
And I had to go back. I'm like, all right, well, let me go back and look at the Yahoo article. And I'm like, yeah. According to the Yahoo
he'll play
article,
at all?
I don't know. Maybe it's much ado about nothing.
Well, it's one of those things I think they have to put their elbows back together and throw and see how it goes. But, I mean,
that's not ideal for the 49ers.
Well, I don't know if in an ideal world do they even want him to play.
Right.
Or do they want Trey Lance, who they gave all that up to? Or do they believe in Darnold? Who the hell knows?
Brock Purdy, again, was very impressive.
Mr. Irrelevant.
But it's going to take some, I think, before he's crowned, we need a little bit more of a sample set. But very impressive.
He was
as good as anybody.
We never really got to see Lance play.
No. He was hurt right away.
So you don't know what.
Yeah.
And he's still really young, so you don't know what that could be.
Kyle is a gangster.
He is, yeah. DeAndre Hopkins recently provided some unspoken clues as to 4 possible destinations from his All Things Covered podcast. Instructed to share his opinion on joining a given team based solely on body language.
Yeah,
Hopkins
silly
was
season.
asked about 4 teams. Patriots, no, of course he would never. Bills, yes, of course. Quarterback. Jets, no. Chiefs, yes. I would, if I were him and I could find my way to Kansas City, I would go do that.
Why not? Why not?
I would go do that, and I would sort that out. Wasn't there? Who's the other guy I just said to do that too?
Anybody that's a receiver.
There was a receiver who we were wondering. Oh, it was Odell. And then he ended up getting $17 million.
Somehow.
Which is still
it's
wild.
Amazing to me that he pulled that off. But, yeah, go there and catch passes from Patrick Mahomes and prove your worth, and then away you go.
Yep.
Hard to believe, 11 days until night 1 of the NFL draft. Here are some notes from Peter King's Football Morning in America. Peter writes, Tyree Wilson, the Texas Tech pass rusher, might be in competition with Will Anderson for the top defensive prospect on Houston's draft board. That could mean something if the Texans aren't quite as smitten with C.J. Stroud as the mock draft world thinks. So we've heard this a lot coming out of Houston, that they are not as enamored with – apparently they like Bryce Young, according to reports. I think it's all nonsense.
Well, if they did, then you blew it, boy.
You blew it, boy.
Like we thought going into that game,
yeah,
that somebody was going to have to run out of their own end zone to force a safety to lose the game 2-0.
Yeah,
and instead they're out there throwing haymakers back and forth, and now neither one of them's in ideal position. It appears
Speaking
like
of the ideal position,
snowing. That doesn't look like rain. That looks a little.
Yeah, that's
a wintry mix.
I'd say wintry mix. That's
sleet.
A great way to put it.
Yeah.
We'll have severe weather later this week.
Listen, I will not complain.
I got lacrosse tonight at 8:30. NBC.
Where?
Playing Lakewood at 8:30 tonight.
In a dome?
Hudson. Turf, but yeah.
Going down to like 35 tonight.
Oh, yeah. Imagine a bunch of little 5th graders bussing from Lakewood to Hudson to play. Jeez.
What are we doing?
I don't know. Freezing, I guess, is what we're doing.
How are Lakewood and Hudson in the same conference?
Well, I have no idea. There just probably aren't that many teams that play.
Yeah.
And a lot of the West Side teams are a little bit behind the East Side teams on lax. So I think that they're trying to get games and while they can early on in the season.
It's crazy to me. The people who went to the Cavs game on Saturday at 6 p.m. probably went in shorts. You could have worn a jersey with no sleeves if you were comfortable doing that, parading around. And then the people who go to the Cavs game on tomorrow night are going to be like bundled up like it's the middle of winter.
Saturday night, 7:30, I watched NBC play lacrosse in shorts and a T-shirt. Tonight, I will watch him play lacrosse in a winter jacket and gloves.
Some Canadian goose.
Yeah, that's how that's going to go.
No pool time today.
No. Oh, my God. I got to remember to
time.
turn that sucker down. I got to turn that
down.
down.
Yeah,
You're welcome. I got to get that thing. I don't need that running at this heat right now.
What do you and Nick Casario spoke today and said that they're willing to listen for people at number 2. If you truly had all of your eggs in one quarterback basket and all you had to do was lose a game, you lose the game.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you don't.
Then you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Then you, sir, I love you, but you're not serious people.
No, you're not serious people. By the way, if you do like one of these other quarterbacks, what is the point of all of this nonsense? Like if you actually like C.J. Stroud, why would you say we're open for business? Now, if you're Houston, just quickly to do the other side of it, if you're Houston, what if you say we're taking Will Anderson at 2, or we're trading out at 2 would be ideal, right, to Indy, and then you still get Will Anderson. So we trade out at 2, we go back to 4, whatever, and we'll sit out quarterback this year. And next year, we're going to be one of the worst teams in the league again. And this is what the situation the Browns were in, right? You pick at the top of the draft in back-to-back drafts, and you hope you hit on them. Next year, you look at Caleb Williams, and you look at Drake May, and you look at maybe Quinn Ewers, and you look at these other kids that could be available, and you say, that is a quarterback-heavy draft. That is a loaded quarterback draft. Can you play that game? Now, we tried. We got Miles, who's a sure thing.
The game they needed to lose.
No, I know,
but it's trust them to tank.
It's really brutal.
Yeah,
the spot they're in. But that would be the counter. If they don't go quarterback now, then the counter would be they're going it next year and they're going to plan on being bad. Jalen Carter had 2 visits to top 10 teams left before the Wednesday deadline. This is from Drew Rosenhaus. He said the most perfect fit for Carter
Peter
would be
King
Pittsburgh.
said.
Peter King saying that.
Yes.
We have to trade up to 17 to get him.
There are reports that if Carter were to fall, and he'd have to fall past Seattle, but Seattle seems smitten with him. if he were to like fall to 9, that the Squealers might make a play to go up and get him.
No thanks. Next.
Yeah, we don't need that. I don't need him playing next to Cam Hayward.
And TJ Watt?
Yeah, he's probably the best defensive lineman in this draft, most complete. Obviously, the off-field stuff that happened amidst all that tragedy, but holy cow, from a talent standpoint, you don't need that.
No.
This might sound crazy, Peter writes. I'm not sure how many teams would be aggressive in trying to move up for C.J. Stroud if Bryce Young goes first to
Why
Carolina.
is he getting slandered all of a sudden?
I have no idea.
No idea.
What did he do? Like, he had a great pro day. He was great against Georgia. He was great at
It felt like Carolina was
Combine.
drafting him after that pro
Carolina
day.
was drafting him
Josh McCown
after.
was like,
I can't wait to play
in
hoops.
love.
Yeah, and now I don't even nobody wants C.J. Stroud. Okay.
Like, if you're Carolina, you don't have to be coy. You just be like, this is who we're drafting. Stop us. Can't. We pick first.
Right. The end.
I don't understand why there isn't more of that.
That's what I would do.
We're picking Bryce Young.
I always think it's like, I understand they have to do it like for the drama of TV, but like on the Trevor Lawrence year, why didn't Jacksonville just have a 16 jersey Lawrence and have it ready? The second commissioner says the Jaguars are on the clock. Why don't you just walk up, go?
Yeah. This is our guy.
Like, there is no doubt. We're not working the phones. Like, it's done.
Yeah, we're going to save hours of manpower and
Yeah.
effort. And
Watch
just go,
us. Watch
here we go.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I don't either.
I mean, and it's funny, like all this stuff like Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, like, okay, so what? From a Brown standpoint,
We'll see you Friday night.
so what?
Yeah.
Late.
Yeah, you're 74?
74.
Yeah. When does that hit? Like a 10?
Probably about 9:45, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 o'clock, feels like. The Miami Dolphins have 0 picks in the top 50, 2 in the top 190.
I guess that's why they go out and get chosen.
Yeah, but I don't care. Like, if I'm them, I don't care. I'm ready to go.
That's why they got Jalen Ramsey. They got Tyreek Hill.
They got
got
stuff.
Jalen Waddle.
They got stuff for it, man.
Yeah.
25. I'd be curious who wrote this. Peter brings this up. 25 years ago this spring, ESPN wrote, come 2018, Ryan Leaf, not Manning, was shredding up to a podium in Canton. Pretty amazing that 25 years later it's the opposite. And I'm really curious. I wonder who from ESPN wrote that. There were a lot of people who thought that. Like Jim Rome thought
Ryan
that.
Leaf was going to be great.
Yeah. A lot of Jim Rome, I remember being very emphatic, big Leaf guy. But I'd be very curious, like, who at ESPN wrote that, because that's Cold Takes Exposed about as good as it gets right there. To have it play out exactly 25 years later, it went the other way. Did you see Arch Manning over the weekend, his spring game debut at Texas?
I saw some of the highlights. Looked fine, but so
fine.
he's not going to start
Ewers
day
is gonna
one.
win it.
Ewers
Yeah.
is going to start.
That's the kid who was at Ohio State
right.
for 3
Who was
months.
like the number one quarterback in the country.
They both, well, he was one year, and then Manning was the next.
Are you surprised that they're going with Ewers over
No,
Manning?
I'm more surprised that Arch Manning chose to put his football career in the hands of Steve Sarkisian. That's the most surprising thing to me.
Why did he go to Texas?
I have no idea. I think he loved it from the time he was a kid. And, I mean, there's pictures of him in, like, a Texas T-shirt when he was a little kid. Like, holy hell. Like, I mean, I would go to a place where I knew I had a more stable situation. Like, Texas has been a mess for a long time.
Why wouldn't he have just gone to, I don't know, Alabama?
Well, that was always my theory, that because the Mannings are close with Saban. Like, they've done a lot of stuff with him on, like, their Manning cast stuff and the Manning TV show stuff they do. I don't know.
As Ole Miss in Tennessee, they don't want to go to Alabama.
I guess. And the old man went to Ole Miss.
Right.
And then his old man went to So, I mean, all that is Ole Miss.
But, like,
I don't know.
Bryce Young's done. He comes in. He's at
He
Alabama.
could even sit for a year and then go, like, if they needed him to sit. But, yeah. I don't know. It's a lot for me that he trusted all of that to go to Texas.
Like, I wonder what – although you mentioned Ewers, like, it's possible Ewers is a top pick.
For sure. Arm talent. From what I understood, not the best when it comes to study habits.
Well, you
and
better
attention
be
to
if
detail.
You want to be in the NFL.
Yeah. So incredible arm talent, but some of the other stuff was lacking, and maybe he's matured. Who knows? But that stuff was not up to snuff a couple of years ago. That I can assure you. All right, we continue our tour around the National Football League in New England with the Patriots. That is coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Join the Brown season ticket member waitlist today for the best chance of securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Don't miss out. Go to clevelandbrowns.com/tickets or call 440-891-5050 to reserve your spot today as we continue our tour around the NFL in New England and the Patriots. Bob Sosi going to join us here momentarily. Uniforms. They brought the Pat the Patriot back as an alternate this year. Yeah, you're down.
I am?
Yeah, now you're
Change the stripe on it over the shoulders, the way that the angles of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think their current stuff's bad. I think the Drew Bledsoe era stuff's bad. I think the only thing that is good is Pat the Patriot. Pat the Patriot is great. That's just what they should wear. Pat the Patriot home, Pat the Patriot road.
Yeah, if you wanted to do a Navy version of it too, just do a Navy version of it. If you wanted a Navy uniform because you had so much success in Navy, fine. Do it that way. But it's just a no-brainer to not get that thing right. It is my favorite. It's a great uniform.
Yep.
It's really cool. And the red looks awesome. It's a very, very strong uniform. Stadium, Gillette. I've never been.
I've been. I was rained on. It was cold.
The last 3 times we played there has been complete and utter garbage from a weather standpoint.
Yeah, and really from a performance standpoint, right?
That you would be agreed. You would. Yeah, you weren't there for one of them.
I was there. I wasn't there for the debacle. That's when I had COVID.
So here's the problem. Well, from a radio and TV standpoint,
yeah,
like you got to walk through the stands. You got to walk through the fans to get to Radio Row.
Yeah,
and it's a tight squeeze. It's one long table.
You have to walk through fans?
Oh, yeah. You got to walk through the concourse with the gear and everything.
Oh, really? There's no way to load in private elevator or whatever, right?
Nope.
I feel like we were just talking to somebody that said that stadium was not great. I've never thought it was good, bad. I thought it was
kind of indifferent.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, it's...
And doesn't it just show up kind of like the Bills one, or am I confusing them in the middle of the Bills stadium?
I think the Bills one's better.
Yeah. Is this? It's kind of got development around it, right?
Well, it's all there. It's Patriot world,
Way
right?
Or whatever.
Their whole situation.
Giant. It's like an outdoor, Crocker Park. It's a giant mall area.
Yeah. Road trip.
Sure. You go
it's
to
a long ways though to drive. If you're going to actually road trip it, drive it.
Oh yeah.
That's a full day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a hike.
And you got to figure: are you staying in Boston? I'm assuming you probably are, but. Don't go to sleep on Little Providence, Rhode Island. That's where we stay.
That's where we always
play.
Stay.
Yeah.
Great food scene. Great little nightlife. Some epic moments, maybe.
Yeah.
From that.
Consequential moments.
Yeah.
The yeah, because you don't want to do. That's the thing that's hard. You can't. You can, but you don't want to be in Foxborough. You'd want to be in Boston, or you'd want to be in Providence and do it that way. I love Boston as a city. I think it's great. I've only been there once. It was for 5 or 6 days, and it was a great town. Great food, great history, loved it. Must thing to do on a road trip. I mean, the Boston stuff speaks for itself just from a historical standpoint. I mean, that's
totally.
a no-brainer.
Yeah,
you tie that into the universities that are there. It's stunning.
Yeah.
The stuff and the history that's there. So that's
Harvard
kind of
Yard, tea parties.
Oh yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, it's great. Player you want from their current roster?
Not Mac Jones.
No, not. There's got to be somebody defensively that I'm Matthew Judon.
Judon, Kyle Duggar.
Yeah,
probably Matthew Judon. So I think that's an excellent call by you.
Yeah, that's probably the answer on that because they're not. It's not a lot. They're not exactly.
Judon
he was a beast.
Yeah, he had a lot of sacks last year. Judon is probably the answer.
Yeah,
get that pass rusher. Duggar is quite good.
Yes.
Well, let's see. Hold on. Judon last year, 15.5 sacks. 4 straight Pro Bowlers. He's had 12.5 and 15.5 the last 2 years. Yeah, give me Judon.
That's the guy you need there. All-time favorite Patriot? Jeff George?
Nope. Not bad. I loved Orlando Moss when he was a Patriot, but I love him as a Viking.
Yeah, he's fun everywhere.
But as a Patriot,
that was apex
time,
him. And for anybody who is a fan of his, you were, people our age, because he was the same age as us. That was Randy Moss justification.
Oh yeah,
because it would have been rough
Yeah.
You know, like it was the Vikings' glory, and then I think he was in the Raiders after. That was really not great.
Not a great scene.
And then you kind of were wondering, like, is his career going to peter? Like, is this it?
Yeah, no.
And then he goes to New England and plays with that offense and Tom, and it just goes bananas.
Yep.
And he was ridiculous. That year, to me, it's the second best. And I know Megatron had a monster year. I think that the Moss year is the second best receiving year that year, with the exception of the Jerry Rice
where
year.
he had like 26 touchdowns or whatever when Jerry Rice did.
Jerry Rice had the one year where he was absolutely crazy. And then the Moss year was in 07 was ridiculous.
All right, so Jerry Rice's best year with the Niners. I mean, Jerry Rice, I don't know how many people realize this, that at the age of 40 with the Oakland Raiders, he had 92, 12, 11, and 7 at the age of 40.
That's right.
The year you're referring to, I'm guessing. Well, hold on now.
I think it.
So he has in 86, he's got 86 catches, 15, 70, and 15, averaged 18.3 a catch. The next year, he has 65 for 1078 and 22 touchdowns.
That's the one, I think.
But it's only 1,078
But
yards.
I think it's not enough games, though, right?
12 games.
See, 12 games. That's the year.
So he averaged
12 games.
90 yards a game that year.
Yeah.
And
so Randy's year that I'm talking about in New England is 98 for 1,523. Yeah.
What was his yards per game there? Basically 100, right? Had to be.
Yeah.
98, let's see, and 23. Yeah, so he was 93.3. So their yards per game not too dissimilar.
Randy had a year in Minnesota where he was 77 for 1437, 18.7 a reception, 11 yards a target. His rookie year, he was 19 yards a reception, 17 touchdowns, 69 for 1313.
2003, 111, 16, 32, and 17 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He led the league in receiving touchdowns on 5 occasions. Do you know he never led the league in receiving yards?
Yeah, wild, right?
Yeah.
That he didn't. Playoff team, no. Look, they're in a tough spot. They're just in a really weird spot as a franchise. I'm very curious what the temperature of it is, and when you're curious about the temperature of things in New England, you call on Bob Sochi. He will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Time to head out on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. For some perspective on the New England Patriots, we're doing it for every team in the league heading into the offseason. Well, we're in the offseason. And for the Patriots, we go to the voice of the Patriots, Bob Socci, joining us. Bob, thank you so much for taking the time. You look at this AFC East, and this is an AFC East that the Patriots dominated for the longest of times, and you look at it now and you see what has gone on in Buffalo and the contender that they are. The Jets seem close to adding Aaron Rodgers if that ever happens, and Miami is really, really good from a talent standpoint. Where are the Patriots in the pecking order in the East as you sit here on April 17th?
Just dropped. Let me get him back.
Last is the answer that you're looking for. And
Bob, your voice is eerily similar to Nathan Zagura's.
Yes.
The co-voice of the Cleveland Browns.
Nothing really works as well as B. Orlando Ledbetter did. I don't know where we would go here.
That was the best part of it.
And that's something that I'm curious to get his take on. That's not something that they have faced in New England in who knows how long. And not only that, the questions around the quarterback, the questions with the head coach. There's a lot to dive into, and it feels like the next 5 years are as uncertain for the Patriots as they've been in 20.
I think you could
25.
go. You could probably go before they acquired Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah,
as the number one pick in the draft, because once you draft Bledsoe, they had that run with Parcells where they got to a Super Bowl, and then Bledsoe begat Brady.
Yep.
So that's been that way for a
long
long time, where you had real certainty in the position. They were obviously hoping that Mac Jones would be next in line there, but I don't know that we've seen that. I don't think that you have in the first couple of years there, and so. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting spot for them.
So that's 30 years. He was drafted 1 overall in 1993. 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for 30 years, they've had an idea of what they were either building towards or what they were.
Sure.
And for the majority of that time, what they were was a Super Bowl contender, because after Brady wins it in year 2. So from year 2 with Brady until Brady's done, they're a contender.
Totally.
With Bledsoe, they're a contender for half of those. Right, but they're in the Super Bowl in '96, but they were a contender for the rest of that time until there's the divorce at the top.
100%.
So yeah, they've been in the mix for a really, really long time as an organization.
Yep.
And what does it look like when you're not, and how do you pursue that? And it's been Belichick there for a very, very long time with Bob Kraft, and this hasn't gone well since. At the end of Brady didn't go well, and then it hasn't gone well, since.
No, and we talk about it hasn't gone well, and yet, you look at this.
It's all relative.
I was going to say, all relative. They've still been a fairly solid team. 8-9 last year. In Mac Jones' rookie season, 2021, they go 10-7. And then I think those Brady's 7-9 was in the year before that, which was Cam Newton, Brian Hoyer at the quarterback for them. So, yeah. But still, as wild as it sounds, they're exactly 500 over the last 3 seasons, which is not what the Patriots do. They were 12-4 the year before in Brady's last season in 2019. But they've been 500, which not too shabby.
No.
But they do not feel like a team that is going anywhere of consequence, nor has it's set up that that will change anytime soon. Like, I don't see them becoming anything other. And again, Aaron Rodgers taking forever, as we surmise that it might. I don't see any way for them to get out of number 4 in the division anytime soon either.
They're learning a very hard lesson that if you don't have a dude at quarterback, you're not really going anywhere.
Oh, welcome to the real world.
That's the real world. Like, that's
the real truth.
Yeah, that is the real truth, Bootsy. Like, when you have Bledsoe into Brady, you're a Super Bowl champion always, right? You view that.
Yep.
That's where that's your point of that you're pointing towards. And when you don't, you're relentlessly trying to find that guy.
You have to. And I think that's why I know a lot of people who are Patriots fans that in this Bella Brady divorce, that happened, and obviously it ended up being fine. But Belichick on one hand was right that they needed to trade him and either roll with Garoppolo for a while but get something for
when
Brady
he had value.
When he had value. And they were not able to do that. And Belichick was thinking about the long-term success of the program and of himself. But it's why so many Patriots fans are upset with that organization, because the truth is, if you have to make a decision between a quarterback and a coach, you have to choose the quarterback. But Brady was already in his 40s.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult situation, but it has left them in a position where it is unlikely that there is, a quick or easy fix for them, unfortunately.
It's interesting because you could make an argument they were both right. Belichick was right that they probably should have traded him when they had value, because they would have netted the return that 3 ones. Like, imagine if Brady's on the open market in his late 30s coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, what that would have looked like had you traded him, let alone when they still had Garoppolo. Like, they would have traded him then and done that transition on to Garoppolo. So in that sense, Belichick's right. Belichick's wrong in that he thought Brady was done before Brady was done.
Well, yeah.
Because he was still good.
They won it in 16 and 18. They won it in 14, 16, and 18. Mm-hmm. And they went 12-4 in 19. And then Brady leaves and goes and wins in Tampa. Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Belichick is that the end of Brady, and now being exposed even more so now, Belichick the GM undoes Belichick the coach at skill positions. I mean, that's just the reality of it. He can't draft them. He's never really been able to. And so that's a spot there. Then last year they do the ill-advised, like Matt Patricia's the offensive coordinator, for God's sakes. I mean, that's a disaster. But he's doing it. So they do get Bill O'Brien to come be the coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator at Alabama the last couple of years, longtime Patriot assistant. Before that, or prior to that, after that, he goes to Penn State and kind of lifts that program. No, not kind of. Absolutely lifts that program out of the end of Paterno, which is a disaster. And then he goes to the Texans, where he answers to nobody for all those years, but had some really good seasons.
Yeah. No, and that was kind of part of it last year. They didn't have any cohesion on the staff. They didn't have, in terms of, we didn't have an offensive coordinator. Who's calling the plays? Quarterbacks kind of split the locker room when Zappe came in and played so well against us. Your point about him, the GM, though, is so right, but it's still crazy that despite that, his inability to draft well, he's still 154 games over 500 as the head coach of the New England Patriots in the regular season. I mean, that is just a stunning number. That's like basically going undefeated for 10 seasons.
Yeah. So we think we got the phone sorted out. So let's head out on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. The voice of the Patriots, Bob Socci, joining us. Bob, we were just kind of going through everything that's gone on there, and I'll pose the question to you again now, hopefully that we have you on, and that is pecking order in the AFC East. Where do the Patriots fall?
Well, guys, first, it's good to be with you, and second, I had a chance to hear a bit of what you were saying. The only thing you need to drop a few R's, be a little more abrasive, and bring in some callers from like Quincy. and it sounds a lot like our sports talk radio these days. But, yeah, a sense of where the Patriots are, I think they're kind of in a spot where some might say limbo. Some would say a transitional phase. That was actually a term that was used during the spring at the owners' meetings. I think that they're in a difficult place, obviously, as you guys have really laid out, coming off a sub-500 season, not making it to the playoffs for the second time in 3 years, going a fourth consecutive year without a playoff game, and now with this uncertainty about the most important position in the game, quarterback. And then you look at the division, and clearly the Bills are still the team to beat, along with the Dolphins, who've only gotten better. And the real question for them, I think, is, as perhaps you would agree, is quarterback as well. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Jets, who were only a quarterback away from really being a factor, I think, not only in the division but in the conference with their defense. Some of the players that they have, I think, with Aaron Rodgers, presuming he's there, that I think he's going to be able to take advantage of, like Garrett Wilson, who I thought was one of the better young players we've seen in the last couple of years. So, yeah, they're in a very difficult predicament right now. Bill O'Brien will help. There's no doubt about that. But they haven't really done a whole lot to substantially improve in other ways with their player personnel. You trade out Jacoby Myers, you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yep.
And that's a bit of an upgrade for some, but not much of one.
When we sit here and, last year when the Patriots came to Cleveland and unfortunately put it on us pretty good, they did so with Bailey Zappi. And it just feels like, from somebody who's not immersed in this every day as you are, the people either just don't like Mac Jones either in that locker room or that there's something missing with him. What is your perception of the Mac Jones situation? What's kind of the real truth about what they want to do? There's rumors they're going to trade him. They are looking to trade him. What's going on there with their quarterback?
Yeah, it's really been a remarkable situation for him and a fall from grace that I don't think anybody could have predicted, even for people that doubted whether the ceiling was high for him.
Sure.
Beyond what he showed in his rookie season. When you go back to 2 years ago, he comes in, not only does he win 10 games as the quarterback as a rookie, he unseats Cam Newton, number one. And I know Newton, certainly was nowhere near what he'd been in 2015, but he's still the incumbent. He's still a guy that Belichick brought back, that Belichick had stayed with through thick and thin, mostly thin, in 2020. And here's this rookie who comes in and has to grasp a complex offense. And he takes what they give him in the spring, and he's able to handle everything they put on his plate. It speeds up his process and his progress. He comes out, he wins the job in the summer. Now, there are ups and downs, but he stands on the same stage as Tom Brady in his homecoming to New England. And only a decision to go for a field goal late in that game in the rain from 50-plus yards out takes a chance to win it out of his hands. And I think about that game in particular. He went toe-to-toe with Brady, played great against Dallas. High-scoring offense. The Patriots lose that game on the first series of overtime. And then, of course, they get to the playoffs, and it's a bit of a struggle toward the end of the season. They get blown out by Buffalo, but still there's a lot of promise. You go to training camp last year, Belichick heaps praise on him like never before with any quarterback, including Brady at that stage of his career. Talks about how far advanced Mac is. But as you guys have documented, the Patriots set themselves back with their own decisions regarding the offensive coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And the frustration that boiled over during the course of the season on Mac's part manifested itself with some things on the field, being very demonstrative, vocal, yelling on the sideline, showing up coaches. And that put him in disfavor not only with Belichick, but I think with a large section of the populace. And it's funny to me to hear people who will say, yeah, they did everything wrong in terms of how they handled him in year two, but he's got to go now too. I don't think we know. And I think with O'Brien, he'll have a fair chance going into this season to prove whether he's the guy or not.
Well, it all rests on that, right? I mean, we were talking, I'm not sure if you heard this part of it or not, Bob. We were talking about how, my God, basically you go from Bledsoe to Brady, and every single season you either have a Super Bowl contender or you believe you're building towards one. And I guess in fair or not, is this the Mac Jones what are you really year? Is this a make or break year for him and the future of this offense?
Well, I think to a large degree it is. Now, does Bill Belichick, still look at Mac Jones as the quarterback of the future? I think, based on everything that's been reported this offseason, Mac's got to put himself back in that position. But for me, I think like the Patriots, their strength last year was their defense.
Yep.
They scored a lot of points on defense, and they benefited too, frankly, from a lot of good luck. They faced a bunch of quarterbacks, often like Jacoby in Cleveland, who were not the frontline guys. And, they're going to have to improve overall as a football team if they're to improve on their record and their standing from a year ago against a much better schedule, no longer being able to count the Jets, for example, in the division as two near automatic wins. And so it's going to fall on more than the quarterback. And so, if they finish at 8-9 again, or 9-8, does that? How do you form that judgment with Mac Jones? They'll still have him under the control beyond this year, but I think, in a way, he's got to really outshine what he did 2 years ago, and I'm not sure he can do that in order to put himself back in that stead with Belichick as being the guy in his mind.
Yeah, and part of it when you're playing that quarterback position, we talk about it all the time on our show for the Browns, and I think really anybody who wants to compete in the AFC, it's about weapons. You have got to have weapons. You have got to be able to score, and I think that, if we're being honest about it, I think Ramondre Stevenson is a great young back. I like him a lot, but if you look at the receiving core, tight ends and receivers included, there's nobody that scares anybody. And it's hard to be an explosive offense when you got to compete with, the Dolphins, and you got to compete with Allen and Aaron Rodgers-led Jets team just in your division. Forget the AFC at large. If you can't legitimately say we can put 30 up, every week. So how do they do that?
Yeah. Well, you're asking me all questions that have been continually rehashed here.
Yeah.
That people are wondering about, because there were expectations that they were going to make a significant deal. Throughout the offseason, DeAndre Hopkins, would they be in on OBJ? Who else would be out there that the Patriots might go out and get to try to improve their offensive weaponry? Because you're absolutely right. There really is no one. I hate to use the cliche, but it certainly holds true. It holds especially true in this case. What player at the wide receiver position is causing defensive coordinators restless nights when they have to try to decide how they're going to allocate their coverage? The tight end position, a big disappointment for this team. Finally they traded Jonnu Smith. They got out of his contract. They bring in Mike Gesicki, who's a productive player. He's a big wide receiver.
Yes,
he's been a productive player in the past, but he's not. He's coming off, a relatively unproductive season for him. And you look at the offensive line to go along with that. This is a team that, last year really suffered at right tackle especially. Isaiah Wynn was the number one pick. He really lost 3 seasons out of the 5 that he spent with the Patriots, either to injury or, in the case of last year, a variety of reasons. And they brought in Riley Reif, and Connor McDermott is around, as candidates to – otherwise they would be maybe candidates to make the roster as swing tackles. Well, now, the way it stands today, they could be candidates to start at one or both positions, given what happens to Trent Brown in the coming months. So they really are in a tough spot because, like you say, you got to have weapons. You got to be able to put up points, and everything offensively. Even going back to 2021 with Josh McDaniels as the coordinator and Mac Jones as quarterback, they labored to score points. They really had to work hard. Last year, it was a struggle to get first downs, let alone touchdowns. So they had a long way to go. And as we've talked about, what have they done to try to make up some of that ground?
Bob, you're the best. Sorry for the trouble with the phones. Really appreciate you hanging in and jumping on with us. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that's Bob Socci. He is the voice of the Patriots, joining on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. So much more to come. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. But there you go. Good to get Bob in. You know, the one thing I would have liked to that I want to talk to I'm always curious about people there. Belichick's 30 wins from Shula.
Yep.
Does he get it into England?
Well, that's something the Kraft even brought up.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you get 30. Like, that's
30 wins, though. It could be at this 4 seasons. That's 4, I bet.
I think
as we're
4.
currently constructed, that's 7.5 a year for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
That's where
that's
we're.
hard to imagine that.
30.
All right. Next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.